crafty friends, this is the Paper Chef here. In today's Ink It Up tutorial, you are going to learn how to heat emboss backgrounds for your cards. We will be featuring the Merry Moose stamp set, and I will show you some other stamps that we can incorporate. Really, for this tutorial, you just need some trees. Okay, so I'm going to use Merry Moose to start out with, and then I'm also going to use Rooted in Nature, these trees here. And then I have some trees from a stamp set called Waterfront, which are not as detailed. I'm going to show you a trick on using these trees. And I also have a retired stamp set that's really popular. And I don't think I'll get to this one. Hi, Nancy, Joe. But this is lovely as a tree. I'm just giving you options, meaning what I'm showing you can be done with any tree stamps that you have that have some detail in them. And I'm going to be giving you tips and tricks and how I created this card background here. So we're using this as a reference. We're going to show you how to create this card. So we're going to start out with the Merry Moose stamps. And we're going to start out with these two trees. So first step for heat embossing, hi Darlene, is to get your backgrounds all cut. So I already cut the Night of Navy. Hi Yolandi. This is great. You guys are joining me without me giving any notice. I'm using Night of Navy. So I've pre-cut these card bases or backgrounds, and these are 4 inches by 5 1/4 inch. Okay, so they're 4 inches by 5 1/4 inch, and I've already cut them in Night of Navy. It makes a great like sort of night sky, winter sky background. So hi Donna. So that's what you need first. You need a piece of Night of Navy cardstock. It looks good with black. It looks good on Shaded Spruce. Any dark color. So even dark gray. So next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your stamps. Now these have been stained. Like this is a photopolymer stamp set. Hi Vicki. So it gets stained, but it's no big deal. I've used this for a couple years now. This was in last year's holiday catalog, and it came back for this year's mini catalog. Hi Deborah. Wow, lots of you joining me. If I miss anybody, it's because I'm intensely stamping, and I might not be able to see all the comments. So you need to pull off your trees, and I'm going to mount them onto the stamping blocks. This is, I think, D. Yes, I don't know how I always have to look at the letter. I use this stamping block like literally 10 times a day, and I always have to look at the letter. Stamping block D, and then this one will be, I guess, C, because the small, yes, this one's C. So we'll put the trees on there. Okay, so next thing you need to do is use Versamark ink. Now, this is like what I call invisible ink. I tell my craft club, you're using invisible ink, so you can't see it until you do something to it. So we want to get this effect, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to tell you more about this effect. But you're going to start out with, we're going to take the big tree, and we're going to start out by just doing the big tree, and I'm going to do it over here and over here. We'll do it a couple different ways in this tutorial, but first I'm just inking up with Versamark, and again I'm just putting, see, you can, it's like clear, but you have to make sure it's wet, and that one wasn't too wet on that side. In fact, it's okay though. It's okay for what I'm doing, because I'm going to go over it with some other, there's some other trees we can go over it. So now we have 2 trees, see? And you can even do cool things just by embossing that, but we're going to add, we want to make these 2 trees, and let me show you this closer up. The effect I'm going for and the experimentation that I'm going for here, hello Susan, is that these trees, I want to keep the detail on those trees. These 2 trees. The rest of the trees, I want them to be shiny and glittery. See that? So that's the effect I'm going for. So for these 2 trees, and before it dries, I can't chitter chat too much because then my Versamark dries. You're just going to pour it's called the White Stampin' Embossing Powder over the top. Oh, I forgot to use my embossing buddy. You should have used your embossing buddy before you even did the Versamark stamp. Now, I've had a lot of interesting comments about homemade embossing buddies on my last video. It was a lot of fun listening to all the ways that you guys see. This is really, I was wondering what was in it. It's retired, this little embossing buddy. And I got a couple answers from my crafty friends who said that in here, I'll show you how to use it the proper way, not my after the fact way. In here is either talcum powder or cornstarch. So Carol said she goes to the dollar store and she gets a baby sock. And she fills the baby sock with cornstarch. And then she secures that with a rubber band or a big giant clip. So that was her tip, to make your own embossing buddy. Meaning, we don't make these anymore at Stampin' Up. Okay, look at the detail on those trees. Look at that detail. So we don't make these little embossing buddies, but you can make your own with cornstarch and a baby sock. And a big clip or rubber band. That was Carol's tip. Then Mary's tip was use talcum powder and pantyhose. Okay, and then Jeanette also used talcum powder, and she also uses the Ranger anti-static bag. So there's another brand that makes it. So anyway, you can get yourself, make yourself a homemade embossing buddy, or go get one from another company. Now the thing is about the embossing buddy is, by putting that on there, it didn't make my little bits of this embossing powder stick in the places I don't want it to stick. So that's what you're doing. And I was thinking that maybe I should use a dryer sheet. That just came to me after the fact. I'm like, hey, if this is anti-static, right, why not use a dryer sheet? Anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to heat emboss this. I'm using the Stampin' Up heat embossing tool. It has 2 settings. It has 1 and 2. So I'm going to use the second setting. The second setting is a 2. And I've heard someone say that their paper doesn't burn when they use, when they hold it straight onto when they emboss straight. But I like to just use a circular motion, because it's not that I think my paper's going to like burn literally and start on fire. It's just that I don't want my paper to warp. And I find that by rolling it around, oops, I forgot to use my little trick of I started burning my hand. You should always use a clothespin or you're going to burn your hand. By rolling around the heat, then you're going to me, it makes the paper warp less. I'll say this again without being so loud, but anyway, you see that it's like magic. Oh, good, you used a dryer sheet? Yeah, good, Darlene. I was thinking that too. A dryer sheet would work because what? Anti-static. Okay, now, it's just magical. I love heat embossing because you can just watch it change before your very eyes. Watch that transformation. Amazing. And then for good measure, that was loud, sorry. For good measure, I just sort of go over the whole thing. Okay, so I'm very happy with that. Let me focus that. I don't even know if during a live I can actually focus it. You can't do much during a live. You can't change much in your camera, but so we just hope for the best. All right, so there we go. So now what we have is our detailed trees. But we want to make this card, and we have detailed trees, but we also have glitter trees. So we want to do it again now with it. We can take this kind of tree, which has less detail to begin with and it's smaller, and we can take other trees from other stamp sets. And now we can stamp on other places we haven't stamped yet. So again, I'm just going to use my embossing buddy just to make sure that the powder doesn't stick later. That's when you're supposed to use it. We'll do another card background in a minute. You're supposed to use it first on your paper. All right, so again, Versamark, that invisible ink. And we'll put a couple trees around. And the reason I like having so many different stamp sets is because you can have so many different kinds of trees. So let's grab one of we'll grab one from, these are my Rooted in Nature trees. Halfway mounted because I was washing them. So let's use this little guy. Just because he's a little different. We'll put him on this little guy from Rooted in Nature. I just got done converting all my stamps. Well, not all, but everyone I could find. This is Stamping Block B. All of my old clear mount stamps to cling mount stamps. So there's a tutorial on how to let your scan and cut help you do that. So now I'm just kind of stamping in different places with a different kind of tree. And I'm even going to go down to this corner here, a little bit down in the corner. And then we'll do a little bit on just so there's some trees in the foreground. And we'll put a tree back there. All right, so now we have our detailed trees. Now we're going to have our glittery trees. We're going to go and we're going to take the glitter powder. Shimmer White, it's called Shimmer White Embossing Powder. Shimmer White. Bottom line is it has glitter in it. But you want the fine glitter. I've tried so many kinds of embossing powders. And really, they were too thick. Like, don't use coarse glitter. Say no to coarse glitter. It gets everywhere. And, oh, one of my other viewers gave me a tip about using a coffee filter to catch all this powder instead of all my homemade trays. But anyway, you need fine glitter powder. So that's the Shimmery White glitter powder. I'm trying to find my little makeup brush. Dollar Tree makeup brush. I use my little makeup brush to get all the extra glitter off before I heat set it. Because once you heat set it, all these random bits of glitter are going to be stuck where they're stuck. You can't ever get them off again. Okay, so now we have our Night of Navy, Night Sky, Night background. Again, use your little clip, use your clothespin because you don't want to burn your hand. Move your embossing powder away, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a big blob of embossing powder that you accidentally heat up. No, I've never done that before. I've never reheated my embossing powder because I kept it too close to my heat tool. Just kidding, I have, but. So now I'm just heating the glitter. Look at that transformation right before our very eyes. All right, cool. We'll get. Now you have a bunch of different textures going on with the glitter, and you have the white embossing powder that lets the pine trees be seen, and then you have the glitter that lets it shine. Okay, so now, and again, just give you a couple other variations of this. We're going to get another one, and I wanted to get the white one while I'm at it too, because I have a little plan to show you what I do to make snow after the fact on my green trees. So. But first, we always have to, whenever you're stamping, if you don't have time to like run off and clean all your stamps, do all your Versamark work first. Then you can jump right into your color work without going and running and cleaning your stamps. But right now I want to finish doing what I was doing with the Versamark, and then I'll get back to this piece of white. So we'll just do one more background for good measure so that you can see, start to finish, what I did. Okay, so here's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get your piece of cardstock. And you use your embossing buddy on it, right? That's the talcum powder, cornstarch, right? Dryer sheet, right? It keeps all the stuff from sticking on it, okay? So that's what you're doing with the piece of paper. Then you're taking your Versamark, your invisible ink. Oops, and do your biggest trees first, and do your most detailed trees first. Don't do your glitter trees first, because you don't want to get glitter inside your other embossing powder. So I'm going to do these big trees first. The big tree from Merry Moose. Here's where we're at. I'm on Merry Moose. In case you just got here, I'm using the big tree. I'm using Versamark, and I'm going to put a tree over here. The reason I'm putting one tree over there is because I know when I put my moose that are going to be walking in my card, that they're not going to block this tree. And then the other tree I'm just putting over here somewhere. It doesn't really matter where, but I don't want the moose blocking both of my really cool trees. We'll put him up like that. Okay. Then I get my white embossing powder. Okay, white Stampin' Embossing Powder from Stampin' Up. And I pour it over the top. Knock off the excess. Knock off the excess. Get my little makeup brush from Dollar Tree. Get off any more excess. And then I heat this first. So it goes with anything you're doing. If you're doing multiple colors, multiple textures, multiple powders, always heat the one first so that you don't have mixing going on. You know, otherwise my glitter will get stuck on these. I don't want glitter stuck on these because then I lose all my detail. And that was the whole point of my tutorial, was to try to show you how to get some really cool details and at the same time getting some really cool textures with the glitter. So then you use your little clothespin so you don't burn your hand. I use a circular motion Others told me that they hold it in one spot, and that works too. There goes a little piece of glitter. I just don't like my paper to warp. And you can literally watch the transformation as it heats up. After it's heated up, I guess give it another couple of seconds for good measure. All right, great, great, great. So now I'm done with this. Oops, it almost hit it again. See, I didn't have it. I call it hitting it again when you're just trying to get it on heat. So now I'm done with this big stamp, meaning I'm done with the Versamark. I can go ahead and do my, I was gonna make a couple in Shaded Spruce to show you something. All right, so you could clean off your stamp, but it's Versamark, it's invisible. So now I'm using my Shaded Spruce, and I'm just stamping a little bit of a scene here. All right, so we have that. We'll leave that to the side because now we're going to do this other little tree. We're going to do some glitter. And I like to reinforce concepts, and that's why I do things again. And I also want to show you there's really no right or wrong way, and that we can use this tree as well, and use whatever trees you have. Use whatever materials you have. Don't worry, you don't have the same exact things I have. I know you have trees. Every crafter has tree stamps somewhere. So there's our trees. So you have a little tree scene. I'll go over that one a little more. All right, there you go. So that's our background. And now that we have that done, we can add some glitter. Glitter powder. And I keep my things for so long that I'm not even sure if the shimmery, whatever I'm calling this powder, is there. But we have something glittery and fine in our embossing powder section. I didn't actually go check on our site before this, but I know I have a lot of demonstrators watching. So I know we have the clear white embossing powder. That's what I use for the big trees. And this one's called the Shimmer White Embossing Powder. So hopefully we still have that. And if not, like I'm saying, use a fine glitter. And I have it all over my hands. And that's okay. I'm just going to brush it off a little. Get my little brush and heat that up. Once it's heated, you're safe. Now, not that you're not safe just leaving it sit here. You're fine if you leave it. Let me put that over there. You're fine if you just leave this piece sit here for a while. You don't have to heat it right away. You just have to get the powder stuck onto the medium right away. Then you can leave these and heat them all later. So, but I don't want to overheat my heat tool, and I don't want to get bored. I get bored doing the same thing twice, so I like to heat them and then go back to stamping. That's me because I have more fun that way. Stamp, heat, stamp, heat. I have more fun. But you could just leave them and be more efficient, probably, and heat them all at once. And the sparkle is incredible. And then, of course, I don't need to do this one again or this one because I already have those done. I'm just doing heating the ones I haven't heated yet. All right, happy with my backgrounds. Here's what I started with. We'll be putting some mousse on them. Let's do a little more with the Shaded Spruce background. So we've already done the big tree. We'll do a couple smaller trees. Okay. I mean, they have a lot of detail too. And you could do what's called off stamping as well. We'll do a little bit of off stamping. Let me do a couple more. Let me do a couple darker ones. And then you can just sort of off stamp, where you stamp off, like meaning you're just stamping onto you could stamp onto your paper and then stamp onto here. Or, so that way it's called off stamping. you're just getting rid of some of the ink, and it kind of looks nice. Gives it a little more texture. So I'm still using just one color, Shaded Spruce. I know I'm going a little crazy on this scene here, but there you go. So we have a sort of a background there with all of our trees. I want to put a couple more trees in the front. Okay, so here's what I came up with for this one. This is what I came up with. I just wanted a little bit of snow tops. And I just got glitter onto my Shaded Spruce. All right, that's okay. So I'm going to show you my next example. I wanted a little bit of snow. So here's what it looks like without snow. This is my little Murray Moose, right? I wanted him to just be like walking through the forest, but then I wanted to try something. So I took my Waterfront stamp and I said, oh, cool, this is a tall, skinny tree. So if I take the tall, skinny trees, I can put those in front of the big trees, and I can make like a little bit of snowy background, but still keeping that sort of green texture. So that's what I was going for this one. I took my Waterfront stamps. This is my before and after. I just didn't color another moose. Since then, I've colored another moose. But I just want to show you how I got there. This is just my thinking process. That's all. I'm trying to show you kind of where I came up with this idea. So I said, here, let's get this Waterfront stamp and get these trees that are sort of stick trees, meaning they're not very detailed. Okay, of course. I'm trying to see, is it missing? Where are my trees? But what's really weird is like they're missing, but then there's like, oh, here they are. They're not missing. I'm like, wait a minute, they can't be missing. They're just a different color. I'm like, this whole thing's covered. I'm like, they can't be missing. Here they are. This is what I'm looking for. These little less detailed trees. I knew they were in there because I was like, I put them back. So now you want to take, we'll just get a stamping block that's not so dirty, and we'll use this stamping block. This is just one of the stamping blocks that comes with our all-inclusive kits. Whenever you get an all-inclusive kit, that meaning one of our card kits and one of our project kits, then you get a stamping block with those all-inclusive kits, and this is a really cool stamping block as well. So what I'm going to do for this is I want to take Versamark, and I'm going to go over the front of some of these trees, and then I just have a little bit of snow in my background, but not a full snow background. It still looks like sort of Alaska, where you got a little bit of extra snow, but not loads and loads of snow. So you can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm just I'm making these little trees go over the top of the other trees. And I did it maybe 6 times. And some of them stuck out the top, but that's okay, because that part's invisible. I'm using white ink. All right, so there you have it. So I took this stamp and I just went over it, over this green trees. And then I took some of the white embossing powder. You could use the glitter. I don't see why not. But if you want just little snow top trees. But I'm just using the white embossing powder because that's what I did earlier. And I want to just do what I did earlier to show you the effect. Now you can see some of the white trees. Isn't that cool in the background? Like it's snowing. And because the other trees were already dry, so the white part's just sticking over part of it. So the whole thing's not covered with snow. And you get your little paper clip, or your little clothespin again, and you heat that up. And it looks like a hot mess, but it comes out better after you heat it. So I was just going for like snow-covered trees. I did a lot more that time, a lot more snow on these trees than my original. But that's the beauty of it. It comes out different every time. Interesting how different it comes out every time. It's very dark until Okay, total winter scene. Once I put my mousse in front of that, you're not going to see what a hot mess it is because the mousse are going to be in front of it. Oh, the little one needs to dry back there. Yeah, see, I'm drying the background too. So I'm kind of liking it. And you could just get, I mean, the possibilities are endless. But this is what I was going for. I just added a little extra snow. I was going for just a little bit of snow, but I added a lot of extra snow to that. So now I'm going to show you how to make the mousse so that you know how I made the whole card. How you make your mousse and how you, and I even have a little Santa hat I cut out of the Scan and Cut. And then I have one other mousse project that I use with this background that I'll show you. So I'm just going to show you now how to color the mousse because this is the Ink It Up series. So like in this series, I'd like to show you how to color in different ways. Just now we learned how to heat emboss, but now I want to show you how I colored the mousse. Okay, so you're going to get a piece of Whisper White. You're going to get some Memento Black ink. And you're going to make yourself a mousse using the Merry Mousse stamp set. So get out the mousse. That's the detailed mousse. This mousse is great with stays on ink and stamping onto wood. I showed how to stamp onto wood last year. I showed how to make a stencil out of this mousse. And we did some wood stamping. So we'll try to link to those later. I'll try to link to those tutorials later. So you're going to mount your mousse and use Memento Black ink. Make sure it's shiny. Hold it there for 3 seconds. Okay, there's your mousse. You can get your mousse punch and punch it out. Punch it out before you color. I mean, this is just my reason is because if you mess up your punching after you color, it's going to be like, oh man, I just spent all this time coloring and then I totally messed up my punching. So I just like to punch it out before I color, but that's personal. There's really no right or wrong way. You can punch it out after you color. So here's your mousse. And you're going to use our alcohol blends or Stampin' Up alcohol blends markers. I start out with the dark crumb cake. And I take the thin side. Each of our Stampin' Up markers has a thin side and a thick side. I go around the thin side. I'm just going around the body of them right now because you don't want to do too big of sections. I can do the head, but I don't want to do like the legs yet because if I spend time coloring the legs, then this might dry too dark and you want to blend the colors together. So you can see how this one blends. Hey, hello, Dawn. Nice to see you. See how it blends, the lights and darks. Now I'm going to use the light crumb cake. But if you wait too long, then the alcohol markers will dry and then they won't blend. So what I'm doing is circular motions on the body, touching the light crumb cake to the dark crumb cake. So dark crumb cake around the edges. The legs, no mystery there. I just simply used dark crumb cake. I just used the thin side, or you could use light. But in other words, you can't really blend the legs because they're too skinny, and you can't blend such small sections. Well, if you do, you're like not going to get much else done. You're going to be spending all your time trying to fill in small sections. So when it gets to be such a small section, I don't try to blend it. Okay, and that's it. That's how I did the body, and that's how I got that blend color. Now it does dry and blends better. This one's already done. Hi, Mona. So that one's better. Then I took my ivory. Ivory is something we have ivory and bronze. They're like a skin tone that we use for our skin tones. But I thought the ivory, and I used the thick side, was great for the antlers. So that's what I did for the antlers. Only because otherwise it was like too much crumb cake, and I was like, I didn't want to be crumb cake overload. So we're going to put the mousse onto our winter scene. And they need Santa hats, right? So where do we get the Santa hats? From the Scan and Cut. I just cut out a bunch of Santa hats using my Scan and Cut. They're stuck on the mat, so I have to reach over and try to get the mat out. I did it right before this tutorial. Let me unload the mat, okay? Okay, so hi Stella. Here's my little Santa hats I cut out with the Scan and Cut. You can use your scissors to stamp this little Santa hat and cut it out. But, if you have a Scan and Cut, then who uses scissors, right? We just need a Santa hat. We'll get a couple in case we mess up our coloring. Okay. So that's where I got the little hats from. And then I was going to take real red for that. So just use real red at the thin side of the real red. And you could probably do some embossing on the hat too. It's so cute and tiny. But I'm just going to use the thin side and color in the hat. And then I'm going to use Stella to put some glitter on the hat. Okay, so Stella would be cute on the. So I already have one made, so let's not start trying to make the whole background because I don't want to make another whole card out of this one yet. But I already have a card made, so I can show you the little hat on this card. So only one needs the Santa hat, maybe. Maybe both need the Santa hat. Probably just one. Just one of your moose needs a Santa hat, I think. Then that way it kind of looks like a, like there's, let's see, since I have the red, see how the red is over here on that, this little bulb is also from the stamp set. So, I mean, since that's real red, I'm putting this there so that way it's not red underneath the red, just for a little bit of balance. Okay, and you could put a tiny, we have what's called the dimensionals. They're really small, if I can find a dimensional. And then the other effect was my little snowflake effect. These are called Sequined or adhesive back snowflakes. They're also in our mini catalog. So let's see if a mini, I think that's even going to be too big for the hat. I may even have to cut that dimensional down a little bit. Or just use, I could just use glue. Sometimes glue is better. So that was the touch my first hat needed my first card needed was, it needed the Santa hat. And then you get your Stella brush and you just paint, over that. Oh, what fun. Stella is just a glitter brush. And I would do this to my little hat. I would put a little bit of glitter on the top of the hat and on this part of the hat. And now my card is complete. Now I feel happy with this card. Now I can take a picture of this card and use it as the thumbnail for this video because now I feel like my card is complete now that the moose has the Santa hat. You could also put a scarf on the moose, but I found that it blocked too much of the really cool body of the moose. But we do have a little scarf in here as well that you could dangle onto the moose. So how did I get this whole card? It was let's see, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, came from the Merry Moose. This little fine piece of Shaded Spruce in the background is from the the Season Designer Series paper. The Season has very good coordinating colors and it's 6x6 paper. So I just used a piece of the the Season to put behind the Night of Navy. And then I used a piece of crumb cake for the background. So that's how I got that card. Okay, and how did I get this one? This is a piece, this little one with the snowy scene. This is just a piece of our brushed metallic cardstock. Just all you have to do is you can punch the moose out. And the little trick for this moose, for this I'm going to show you my next project, is to flip it over. Okay, I showed you that one. I showed you this one. Okay, so that's with the snow without. And then for this project that I wanted to show you as I wrap things up, and then I'll show you where this is at in our catalog. If you take a piece of brushed metallic cardstock and you use the moose punch and you flip the punch around, you flip the paper around, you flip the cardstock around, you can get the moose going the different ways. So we have this brushed metallic cardstock that has gold and copper and bronze, I guess it is. And you can like make the moose go different ways. That's why I'm kind of tilting it. Okay, and this is a piece of our little, that's retired. I just got it on clearance. I don't think they have anymore, but it was on clearance. It's called Braided Burlap Trim. This is the Braided Burlap Trim. And then this little guy, this little die here, this little die is from the Most Wonderful Time medley. And this is a piece of our, I put a bigger thing behind this. It's a layered bookmark or a layered tag. That's a piece of our the Season Designer Series paper. And there's my embossed background, using the embossed background on the bookmark with some soft suede and Night of Navy trim and some real red trim, which we do have. This is part The real red trim is in our catalog right now. That's called the braided linen trim. Okay, so I hope you like all my cute little projects there, and I have ready to go. I have like little tags that I can just punch a moose out, slap together projects quickly. You know, you just do everything in stages and you get things done, you know, but easier that way. This bundle is a really good deal. This bundle, it's one of the gems. See, it says returning favorite, Merry Moose. The stamp set 17, the moose punch is 18, but you save 10% when you purchase a bundle. And it's also a great thing to put in your starter kit. These kinds of bundles, because you save money, and if you ever want to build a starter kit for $99, you could pick out $125 worth of items, anything you want. And this month there's a couple extra goodies that you get in starter kits. But that's just what I recommend everybody have, not just for Christmas time, but just, I mean, you could do so many cute little puns with this moose punch. So many cute background cards. All right, so stamp yourself up a bunch of moose. Punch them, get them all ready. Look how easy it is. Punch them all out. Color them all at once. And you can make yourself some card backgrounds. And I'm thinking I'm going to be making a lot more of these because I love this moose so much. That's how easy it is. Now you can also cut this out with your Scan and Cut. And one of the things I taught last year was how to make a stencil so that it goes right up against the body of the moose. And then you can sponge color these moose in no time, really, really quickly. But lately I've been using the alcohol blends to color them. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to create card backgrounds. I hope it gave you some ideas on what to do with some existing stamps you already have, or ideas of what stamps you want to get as part of your collection. Let me see if there are any questions. Thank you, Shirley, Darlene, Deborah, Stella, Donna. Thank you all for your comments. And I will see you again very soon. That's all for now. This is the Papered Chef.